2. Alternatively, I invite you to strain your eyes and begin to catch a vision of wealth in its truer, broader sense. I reiterate that the true value of riches lies in their influence over other human beings. That is the end which those who pursue wealth are ultimately seeking, whether they realize it or not. Could it not therefore be argued that, as Ruskin insists, the persons themselves are the wealth? Think of it. If it is a human being who is growing or cooking your food, or building or cleaning your home, or producing any other good or performing any other service for you, wouldn't you wish for them to be as healthy, well-fed, skilled, and conscious-minded as possible? Of course, the only concern one might face in such a scenario would be, but what will it cost me to hire such a competent worker? And therefore, would not the ability to influence and employ such a full-breathed, bright-eyed, and happy-hearted human be considered the highest form of wealth? Perhaps then you can easily perceive the self-sabotage being unwittingly performed by the greedy, self-interested individual who aspires to stockpile as much personal riches as possible. But to make this even clearer, I'd like to quote at length an example borrowed from Ruskin, in which two men are cast away on an uninhabited coast and obliged to maintain themselves there by their own labor for a series of years. If they both kept their health and worked steadily and in amity with each other, they might build themselves a convenient house, and in time come to possess a certain quantity of cultivated land, together with various stores laid up for future use. All these things would be real riches or property, and supposing the men both to have worked equally hard, they would each have right to equal share or use of it. Their political economy would consist merely in careful preservation and just division of these possessions. Perhaps, however, after some time one or the other might be dissatisfied with the results of their common farming, and they might in consequence agree to divide the land they had brought under the spade into equal shares, so that each might thenceforth work in his own field and live by it. Suppose that after this arrangement had been made, one of them were to fall ill and be unable to work on his land at a critical time, say of sowing or harvest. He would naturally ask the other to sow or reap for him. Then his companion might say with perfect justice, "I will do this additional work for you, but if I do it, you must promise to do as much for me at another time. I will count how many hours I spend on your ground, and you shall give me a written promise to work for the same number of hours on mine, whenever I need your help and you are able to give it." Suppose the disabled man's sickness to continue, and that under various circumstances, for several years, requiring the help of the other, he on each occasion gave a written pledge to work, as soon as he was able, at his companion's orders for the same number of hours which the other had given up to him. What will the positions of the two men be when the invalid is able to resume work? As a small society, they will be poorer than they would have been otherwise, poorer by the withdrawal of what the sick man's labor would have produced in the interval. His friend may perhaps have toiled with an energy quickened by the enlarged need, but in the end his own land and property must have suffered by the withdrawal of so much of his time and thought from them, and the united property of the two men will be certainly less than it would have been if both had remained in health and activity. But the relations in which they stand to each other are also widely altered. The sick man has not only pledged his labor for some years, but will probably have exhausted his own share of the accumulated stores, and will be in consequence for some time dependent on the other for food, which he can only pay or reward him for by yet more deeply pledging his own labor. The person who had hitherto worked for both might now, if he chose, rest altogether, and pass his time in idleness, not only forcing his companion to redeem all the engagement he had already entered into, but exacting from him pledges for further labor to an arbitrary amount for what food he had to advance to him. There might not from first to last be the least illegality in the arrangement, but if a stranger arrived on the coast at this advanced epoch of their political economy, he would find one man commercially rich, the other commercially poor. He would see, perhaps with no small surprise, one passing his days in idleness, the other laboring for both and living sparely in the hope of recovering his independence at some distant period. What is important to note from this example is that in the end, though the difference in wealth between the two men is vast, their collective wealth is less than it would have been had the healthy man not sought to take advantage of his companion, and instead resumed working beside him as soon as he recovered. Granted, it may not seem fair that the healthy man must work alone for years to support both himself and the invalid, and then receive no monetary recompense for his labor. Additionally, in our age in which, as Oscar Wilde put it, people know the price of everything and the value of nothing, it may not appear obvious how the healthy man's wealth would ultimately be greater in such a case. The image of him reclining in a lawn chair, watching his neighbor hurriedly plowing both their fields, may smack of greater luxury and opulence than that of him laboring alongside his just recovered friend. But if we take a small glimpse into the future of these two marooned farmers, we easily observe one of them growing increasingly desperate, fatigued, hungry, and resentful, while the other becomes soft in his idleness and more dependent on the other's labor. That which seems to be wealth, writes Ruskin, may in verity be only the gilded index of far-reaching ruin. If the lessons from this example can be extended to our much larger society, and I believe they can, it seems that rather than striving to inflate our personal bank accounts, which may well only be providing us with greater and greater influence over human beings who are becoming ever more hopeless, tired, and weak, the path to true living wealth is to think of your brethren like unto yourselves, and be familiar with all and free with your substance, that they may be rich like unto you. And rich in every respect, inside and out. Again, I ask, what would the healthy man have gained by laboring for years to support the sick man without demanding compensation? If nothing else, he would most assuredly have gained a true and eternal friend, a human being undyingly devoted to him and motivated to serve him, not grudgingly by a piece of paper, but from the depths of his heart. This kind of treasure cannot be bought or sold for all the money on earth. Think of the 1946 film It's a Wonderful Life. Though fictional, this story following the life of George Bailey demonstrates the positive impact that just one individual can have on his community by resisting and disobeying the creeds taught by the science of self-interest. Particularly at the end of the film, we are shown the real wealth that only a person of such character can accumulate, as George's community bands together to help him in a moment of dire need. The toast his brother gives in the final scene says it all. To my big brother George, the richest man in town. Consider in contrast an example of how self-interest within just one sector of our modern economy, the food industry, has negatively impacted the well-being and real wealth of our nation. Helen and Scott Nearing relate. The main factor in commerce which determines what parts of the food under consideration shall be eliminated and what portions shall be retained is profitableness. In order to make a profit, foods must have eye and taste appeal. Otherwise, there will be no mass sales. Any portion of the food which is specially perishable or might detract from its marketability is removed, even though it may be important from the health point of view. Marketability is the criterion, not the health of the consumer. That was written in the 1950s. We've known for a long time about the harm these and other practices, such as the way food is modified, processed, packaged, and treated with pesticides, largely rooted in the same motive, profitability, cause to our wealth. Yet in many ways the situation has worsened since then. We've seen a dramatic decline in food quality in the U.S., a major contributing factor to several serious health crises, including widespread obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, hypertension, micronutrient deficiencies, and mental illness. The wealthiest nation in the world? Not likely. Seeking true wealth. And so we can see two very different perspectives concerning wealth. By one, we are encouraged to view our neighbor as a competitor for the earth's resources, as an enemy, or at the very least as surplus, without whom life would be easier and more enjoyable. By the other, we are invited to treat our neighbor as a collaborator, a fellow laborer working toward the same goal. The first assures us that if we lie a little, take advantage of one because of his words, or dig a pit for thy neighbor, there is no harm in this. While the other urges us to go the extra mile, to give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee turn not thou away. The former measures the wealth of a nation in dollars and cents, while the latter endeavors to fill a nation with, as Ruskin puts it, the greatest number of human beings noble and happy. This latter way of viewing wealth, though less common and seemingly counterintuitive, is nonetheless the more complete one. It identifies an essential element without which no economy, be it capitalist, communist, socialist, feudalist, or any other ist, can long stand. This indispensable element goes by many names. Ruskin calls it social affection. Lyndon J. Robeson calls it friendly, trusting relations. Marianne Williamson describes it as the practice of making love the bottom line rather than profit. We might even consider Lady Macbeth's simple, though scornful description of it as human kindness. In Scripture, it is often referred to as brotherly love, charity, or universal love. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffereth long, is patient, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, does not boast, is not puffed up, is not arrogant, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, is not irritable, thinketh no evil, is not resentful, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, if ye have not charity, ye are nothing, for charity never faileth. Wherefore, cleave unto charity, which is the greatest of all. For all things must fail, but charity is the pure love of Christ, and it endureth forever. And whoso is found possessed of it at the last day, it shall be well with him. But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you, bless them that curse you, pray for them which despitefully use you. And unto him that smiteth thee on the one cheek, offer also the other. And him that taketh away thy cloak, forbid not to take thy coat also. Give to every man that asketh of thee. And of him that taketh away thy goods, ask them not again. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. And if ye do good to them which do good to you, what thank have ye? For sinners also do even the same. And if ye lend to them of whom ye hope to receive, what thank have ye? For sinners also lend to sinners, to receive as much again. But love ye your enemies, and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And who is my neighbor? And Jesus answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him, and went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, He that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, Go, and do thou likewise.